Take 2. Okay, go, be gone. Okay, yeah, bye. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Addydae Designs video blog. I'm Deanne, your host. I'm a crochet designer, sometimes knitter, and lover of all yarny goodness. So welcome. Thanks for dropping by and joining me in what I have to show you today. So I hope you enjoy it. Freckles, don't, oh my good, please don't work with animals or children. No, it's okay. My cat was about to attack the microphone muff. Okay, let this all just be a warning to you that today's going to be a little weird. So, how have you all been? We'll just ignore all of that just happened and get started, shall we? I hope you've been well. That's what I meant to say. It is October the 30th. I did promise on Instagram that I was going to film yesterday, but it was the weekend and we were kind of doing a bunch of stuff as a family, so decided to leave it till today, but hopefully I shall upload it nice and quickly for you. I have a bunch of stuff to show you, which is really, really good. When I was thinking about recording, I didn't think I had much to show, and then I got it all together and I surprised even myself. Amazing. So, are you ready? How about I start with some finished objects? I have more than one. Plural finished objects. The first one, these have a bit of a theme too. The first one is, now I haven't woven the ends in, I'm sorry, but it's a pair of my new Brenda Bella mitts. Now these are just very simple mitt, sorry I'm getting caught on the ends. And now I'm getting caught on my wedding ring. Let's try the other hand, shall we? I told you it's going to get strange today. But here they are here. It's a nice little, just a very simple fingerless mitt with a bit of a cable design and some ribbing. And these, can you see the sparkle? Sorry, sparkle doesn't need sound effects, does it? But this is 100% alpaca from One Tree Hill, alpaca stud. I got this a while ago because it's undyed. Let's see if this can pick it up a bit better. This is undyed with gold sparkle or stellina or angelina, I don't know what you want to call it, but it is just divine. It was so nice to work up. I've been waiting to work this up for a little while. Wasn't sure what I was going to make, and it just seemed to lend itself to the mitts because it's a sport weight, and it's just so soft. Now this, while they don't have colorways, this collection from One Tree Hill Alpaca is named after the animal the fleece came from. So this is a skein from Amelia, which is really cool. And it's so soft. It's got a beautiful halo, which you can probably see. Come on, camera. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't really show up much, but it does have a nice halo. Crazy, crazy soft. Just so nice to work up. So, in case you're wondering, this was my latest pattern release. I released this about a week ago, I think. Nice and simple, relatively new crochet. I could easily do this. There's no real shaping, as much as, you know, you're not doing decreases or increases. The thumb holds really, really easy. The hardest thing might be working in the back loop of stitches. Yeah, actually not that hard at all, really. And yeah, I'm very happy with those. They're nice and squishy, and it used less than half a ball to make this pair for me, so I can make another pair if I want to, which is really cool. So good value out of one ball. My next FO is also being my, is that? Oh my goodness. I told you it's going to get strange today. Radar, what are you doing? Okay, we'll just leave him as long as he's not trying to destroy my flowers. I'm happy. It's all good. Oh dear. My next FO is also from One Tree Hill yarn. This is their 8-ply base. Actually, before I talk about that one, I wanted to show you another mitt. Okay, I'm jumping about all over the place. Because I was mentioning the Brenda Bellamets. I worked up a pair in 8-ply. This is 8-ply yarn from Bendigo Woolen Mills here in Australia, and I just wanted to show you the different. Actually, I'll put them both on because in the pattern, even though it's written for sport weight yarn, which this one is, which one did I have on before? There we go. You can easily substitute either your favourite sock yarn in fingering weight or DK weight yarn without having to make any changes to the pattern apart from using a different hook. So I worked one up just to make sure that this actually worked in practice, and it does. I mean, here's the two. You can see that the DK weight one is a little bit longer. I haven't done the edging on the cuff yet on this one, so it's not 100% finished, but it just makes a chunkier one with a little bit of extra length. The only adjustment you have to make to the pattern is working fewer rows because it's a heavier yarn, you know, the row height is greater, therefore you can do less rows, therefore it takes less time. So there's a bonus for you. Warmer mitts take up less time. Yeah, so there you go, there's the comparison. Not quite as delicate, I suppose, although I honestly don't think using the heavier weight yarn detracts too much from it at all. So there you go. If you've got some DK in your stash, want to whip up a really, really quick project, it works equally well in their heavier weight yarn. So I was really happy with that. The reason I haven't done the cuff edging is because I was using up some stash and I don't have the ball. Yes, I do. Oh, it fell off. I was just using some leftover Bendigo Mills luxury that I had, and when I finished this part of the mitt with just the fingertip edging completed, I've just used exactly half of what I have. So I'm going to see if I can eke out a second one from this, and whether or not I have enough to finish off the cuff edge, I don't know. So I'm just going to leave that, hoping that it will give me enough to finish the mitt part and the fingertip edging, and I may just leave it without the cuff edge and I'll have a nice warm pair of mitts for next winter, because yeah, it's not cold here at the moment, but it doesn't stop us from making all the pretty things. So yes, there you go, my Brenda Bella mitts. And you can make them in fingering weight, sport weight, or DK. If you use fingering weight yarn, you just sort of have to do the opposite and work maybe a couple of extra rows just to get that circumference around your hand, but really, I mean, that's no biggie, and it just makes an even more delicate glove. So it's ever so slightly shorter from cuff to fingertip again, and the lace comes out really nicely. My cat's just decided to chew some random packaging that's sitting over there. I'm going to ignore it and hope that he stops. Moving on, my next FO is with some more alpaca. Now this is, I'm looking for the other sample. This is a collaborative design with Angela of One Tree Hill Alpacas, in that I didn't make this up. Now that sounds bizarre if it's a design of mine. Okay, Angela, before she was doing so much in the yarn dyeing, well, I suppose it hand in hand, but now she's a lot busier doing the dyeing of the yarn. She used to make up a lot of little accessory garments for sale. She's not doing that so much anymore, but she wanted the pattern written up for one of the hats that she used to create and sell. And Angela doesn't read crochet patterns. She just knows how to crochet and just goes for it. So she asked me if I would write up a set of instructions for her hat design. So you see where it's a collaborative thing. Her design, I'm just writing up the actual instructions so that you guys can make ones for yourselves. So this is what I came up with. It's a gorgeous basket weave, but check out the crown. Oh, isn't that amazing? It just looks awesome. I haven't secured the magic loop in the center yet, so I can pull that a bit more tight. But doesn't that look great? I'm just looking around. I can't find. Okay, somebody's run off with Angela's sample that I worked it up from. But this is again using her 8-ply, that's like DK weight. This used exactly, like you can see how much yarn I had left over, used exactly 100 grams. It's probably on the heavier side of DK, but it's so soft. And this, with it all being post stitches, makes it crazy. Oh, just, makes the fabric a little bit thicker, but it's still so soft. And I'm really happy with how that came out. So it's a gorgeous colour. I got this a long time ago from Angela, and at the time she wasn't giving her yarns colour names. So I cannot tell you what this colourway is, just that I love it because it's a gorgeous, you can see all the different teals in there, darker and lighter, and it's worked up really, really well in this project, so I'm really happy with it. I'm tossing up whether or not to put a giant pom-pom on the top. I have some more of Angela's yarn in the light teal. Anyway, this is dark and light teal in it, and I do have some, like a complementary colour that is just a solid pale teal. So I'm tossing up whether or not to do a giant pom-pom in the light colour, leave it without a pom-pom, or do a pom-pom in this colour because I have another skein. So if you have any ideas, let me know what you think. I could also get one of those awesome faux fur pom-poms that are very popular at the moment because they look fantastic as well. So suggestions, anyone? Let me know what you think. But very happy with how that turned out. I only finished that about an hour ago. So very, very quick because I only started it yesterday. So yeah, another FO, and crazy soft, and I love it. So if you haven't tried some One Tree Hill alpaca yet, get your hands on some. It's good stuff. So they are my FOs. Now I have several whips that I wanted to show you. So the first one is my Done in Love sweater. So I'm looking at my notes so I don't forget what I wanted to tell you. Last time you saw this, you remember last episode I was talking about how I wanted to make all the sweaters? Well, I wasn't kidding. Wait till you see what I have. Okay, so first of all, this was, or is, my Done in Love sweater. Last time I think I hadn't quite split for the sleeves, but as you can see I've worked a bit further down than that now, and I have started the pattern in the body. The top, the yoke section is quite plain, and then there's this sort of lacy, I don't know whether it's well, I guess it's lacy, it's kind of got holes in it, but it's this little crisscross pattern that I believe goes down the entire body of the sweater. I'm not sure. If you remember, this pattern was released in stages. I have not gone ahead and checked the third, I'll call it clue, it wasn't a clue because it wasn't a mystery, but the third set of instructions, this is part of the second part of the instructions. So really happy with how that's turning out. Love the colour. It's such a pretty colour. These are all Tanis Fibre Arts yarns. The top one is just their undyed. I think it's all Blue Label. I know Tanis names her different bases, like Blue Label, Purple Label, Yellow Label, depending on the weight and content. But these are all Blue Labels, which is 80, hang on, I can't read French, go to the English side of the label. Blue Label fingering weight, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. In the sand colourway is the second colour. So that darker one is the sand colourway. I think, actually I was watching Tanis's latest podcast, her and her husband, well Chris is on there sometimes, but Tanis has a podcast. And this morning I was watching the latest one, and they were talking a lot about their, now I'm going to forget it, but they were talking about changing their bases for some of their yarns to move away from, I think it was superwash. Oh, see, I don't pay attention to too much of the yarny details. But yeah, they've changed their base to a more environmentally friendly base. That's basically what it came down to. So I don't know if this base is still available from them. In any case, I love their colours, love their yarns, and I'm sure the new base is just as good. And the third colour I'm going to add is going to be this one, which was a one of a kind that I got from an Etsy update that Tanis had. So this is the dark stone colourway. I think stone is the regular colour available in their shop, but this one is called dark stone. Yeah, dark stone. So I think that's going to be great. So very happy. Sweater number 1. Okay, so hang on, let me just get myself sorted out here. I'm keeping this sweater in my, here's the label, can you see that? My Creative Garage bag, which I love. This is a fabulous bag, especially for sweater quantities. I have more than just one sweater's worth in here at the moment because it's kind of been sharing space with another one I've been working on. Yes, I've been working on 2. Actually more than 2. Let me show you contestant number 2. After starting the Done in Love and working on that for a little bit, and as you know, I've been totally bitten by the sweater making bug, even though it's not cold here, clearly, at the moment. I figure this is all just really good planning and getting organised for next winter. I got sort of inspired to create a design of my own. So it kind of gave me a bit of confidence doing the Done in Love pullover. That's by Katie Peterson too. I'll put a link down below for that design if you would like to look it up on Ravelry. Very, very well written pattern with photo tutorials, step-by-step instructions. It's fantastic. So if you want a great sweater pattern that if you've never made one yourself before and you'd like to try, I highly recommend it because she really holds you by the hand step by step all the way through. So there's no guesswork. Yeah, anyway, it gave me confidence. I have wanted to design my own sweater pattern, jumper pattern, for so long, but I'm terrified. Yeah, I don't have a design background, like an official design education background. I really don't. So the idea of designing a sweater and grading it for different sizes for women's shapes is a little scary. But I think I got this one sorted, I think. I'm still in the process of writing up the pattern, so I'm sort of doing it, making it as I write it to make sure that what I'm writing is going to work. So I'm actually working on 2 prototypes at once to see how I go. This one is the first one, okay? So, now my intent wasn't to create a fade necessarily, not quite like this anyway. This was, the colours I chose for this were purely based on what yarn I had in my stash. I didn't want to go out and buy a sweater's quantity for the initial prototype because I didn't know if it was going to work and whether or not I was going to be happy with the shape. So I went to my stash and basically I picked out a fade that I liked because I only had, you know, one, I think I had a maximum of 2 skeins of any colour and probably only 3 colours did I even have more than 1 skein. So there was no way I was going to get the whole thing out of one colour anyway. So these, that was a long way of getting to why there are so many different colours in this. But yeah, this is it's going to be obviously just a circular yoke, top down, seamless, lots of my favourite things in this actually. It's got short rows, there will be some fading in the proper sample, which you'll see in a minute because that's the next thing I have to show you. But yeah, I'm really happy and actually really excited about this design. So the colors, I'll tell you about those first because these are clearly gorgeous. The very top color is this beautiful color, which is Strawberry Malt, which is from, oh, can you do it, camera? Come on. There we go. Is that clear? No, not quite. There we go, from the Australian Wool Store. I got this at the Craft Alive event here in Canberra. It was sort of a big, it was an event for all sorts of crafts. So you could go there and there was paper craft people and there was some yarn and then there were quilting supplies and, you know, anything crafty like that. It was here in Canberra. So that is the Strawberry Malt colourway, which, there we go, isn't that cute? And there's tiny little speckles in that, which is just lovely. It's a beautiful soft colour. So that's the top colour here. The second colour I used is this one, which I've just got to make sure. This one is a Hedgehog Fibres Skinny Singles. First time I've used their Skinny Singles, which I just, you know how much I love singles. And this is Film Noir, I'm pretty sure, yes. So Skinny Singles from Hedgehog Fibres. I love this colourway. Seriously, if I'd had enough of this to make the whole thing in the one colour, I probably would have. It is so nice. Like there's just, this colour is totally my jam. Yeah, just the little pops of pink and black and grey. So you can see here I've striped the two of those and then there's a small section of it just done in a solid. And then I have a third colour being introduced down here, and that is, the Skinny Singles Hedgehog Fibres I got from Skein Sisters when I went up to visit them a couple of weeks after Bendigo, the sheep and wool show. And this one is also a single ply, and that's the third colour I've added. Again, you can see it's got the pinks and it's a bit more peachy, this one, whereas the other one's more on a white base. Now this one I did get at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show, and it's from a dye that I hadn't heard of before. I bought it from Zigo Zago. They are an online store in Victoria. I think they're in Castlemaine, and they have had a booth at, well, at least at the last two Bendigo Sheep and Wool shows that I've attended. And I kid you not, it was shoulder barging room only in their booth. It was just jam-packed. So it was kind of, you know, the quick and the dead if you wanted a particular colourway. Everyone was nice, don't get me wrong, but at one point I was right in the back corner of the booth and my phone rang and I couldn't get out to take the call. It was hilarious. So they're very popular. They carry a fabulous range of gorgeous yarns, which is why there were so many people there, but it was quite hilarious when I was there. Moving on, this is the label of that yarn. So yeah, I hadn't heard of these before. I actually thought it was, now what was the other base? It was hanging next to another, I cannot for the life of me think of what this other, I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, it was hanging next to something else and I thought they were all the same. And it wasn't really until I got it home and paid a bit more attention to the label that I realised, yeah, Farmhouse, like German house fibres. So there you go. This is 100% merino, as is, I think, the Skinny Singles. Yeah, 100% merino, they're the same. And what was I going to say? The colourway is Do You, E-W-E, Even Knit is the colourway name. Can you read that? I don't know if you can. It's going to get overexposed if I turn it to the window. So there you go. This is a prototype number 1. So I basically got this far and then I decided, right, I can actually start my actual prototype. So I'm really happy. I changed a little bit. When you put this one on, I didn't like how gapey the neckline was. So I made a small change to the ribbing for the neck so that it just lays a bit flatter. I didn't like it. It seemed to stand up at the back, but I'd gone too far. There was no way I was taking this one back. But yeah, really happy with the neck shaping because I've got short row shaping in there, and yeah. So excited and happy. And with this one, the next colours, because like I said, I don't have more than one skein of any colour to use in it. The next one I'm going to introduce, so here's the last one that I used, and then I'm going to add this gorgeous one here, which is from Dingo Dye Works in the Jumbuck base, and for some reason the tag is missing and I cannot remember what this colorway is. Sorry, but it's gorgeous. Doesn't matter what it's called, it's gorgeous. I absolutely love this color and I've been dying to use this one in something as well. So I think that will look great as the next one. And because this is my practice prototype, I think I might only do it short sleeve. Or maybe not short, maybe elbow length. I don't know. I'll see how I go. I'll work it up to nearly elbow length and then maybe I'll do 3/4. I don't know. Because it all depends on how my yarn's going. I don't want to run out. And then, if it continues, this is the next colour. So here'll be my colour progression. So, here we go. That's better. Look at that. Oh, how good is that? This one, I don't know if I showed this to you. This is also a Hedgehog Fibres, but this is in their sock base, so it's not single ply. It's just in their sock. And it is called Pheasant. I bought this from a stand at Yarn Day here in Canberra, a celebration of wool that I have at the old bus depot markets every May. It's usually about the first weekend in May. Is it the Abbey? The Abbey wool store? I'm gonna get it wrong. I'd never met these ladies before. It's the first time I'd actually even heard of them. They are based in rural New South Wales. I'll get the details for you and I'll put it below anyway. But yeah, they carry a lot of high quality yarns and they had loads of Hedgehog Fibres there that everyone was just going nuts for. So yeah, this is one of the colours I got from there. And if, again, because I don't know how far my yarn's going to stretch, because this is a prototype, if I need another colour again, that's going to be the bottom colour, which, I mean, look at that. Hang on. Come on, the camera's, oh, it's really struggling today. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Now this again is another Hedgehog Fibres skinny sock. No, not skinny sock, just Hedgehog Fibres sock. And this is the truffle colourway. So it is just gorgeous. Look how rich that is. And there's a little bit of cat hair. There we go. It's beautiful. It's very autumnal. It probably is covered in all sorts of fuzz from various sources, being put in a bag with a whole bunch of other yarns. So yeah, there's my colour plan for prototype number 1, sweater number 2 for this episode. So yeah, I'm just gonna give me a second while I untangle myself from all these balls of yarn. But lost one. Sorry. Yeah, really happy with how that's turning out, and I love the colour play and it keeps it interesting, which is really good too. Changing colours always makes it fun. You just want to keep going until the next colour comes. Or is that just me? I'm easily entertained that way. Alright, I'm just going to give me 1 second while I pause the camera and restart it so that it doesn't stop in a terrible spot. Okay, thanks. If I don't do that, it will stop at a random, well, it's not so random, I think it's at about 35 minutes. It just stops altogether. And sometimes it stops and I don't notice, so better to do it before. Okay, are you ready for sweater number 3? I can't believe I'm even saying this. I know it's not finished, but I'm pretty excited about actually getting this much done. Now, this one is going to be my proper sample for when the pattern comes out. So this is the real deal. And this one is made in one of my favourite yarns, as you probably know. Dingo Dye Works Ridgy Didge. It's so soft. So there you go. How gorgeous is that looking? So you can see, okay, still got a bit of the fade thing happening, but not nearly as much. There's not going to be as much colour changing as there is in my first prototype. Because I got myself a sweater quantity from the lovely Peter. She sent it over to me very generously for my prototype, which is so cool. Thank you, Peter, I love it. So this one's just going to be in 2 colours. So it started off with this colour, which is Blue Gum, and this colourway, which it works into, is Gum Leaf, which is one of Peter's newer colours. And I love it. I'm so happy with how this is looking and feeling. And if you saw my photo on Instagram the other day, you'll see how delighted I was about how it's fitting. It was, yeah, it's always pretty nerve-wracking, you know, to work this much and not know, you know, exactly how it's going to look till you put it on. So it was another one of those I'll just close my eyes moments while I pull it on. I was like, yay! I was so happy. But yeah, so here you can see I faded the 2 colours together just above where you split for the armholes, and then it's just been worked from this point so far into the Gum Leaf, which is gorgeous. I mean, seriously, check it out, the speckles in this colour. I'll try not to undo all of it while I show you. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's a delight to work with, and it's a delight to watch I know it's a semi-solid basically, but the subtle colour changes make it interesting to work up as well. So again, you've got, I've got a bit of short row shaping on the neck. I thought, because sweaters are a lot of work, they take a long time. I mean, I've probably already used up the equivalent of 2.5 skeins of yarn. So that's normally, I mean, most of my shawls are about 2 full skeins. So, you know, it's an equivalent amount of work to something that's already finished. And then I've got a lot more ahead of me. And you know, I don't want it to be boring, because, you know, if people buy the pattern, I kind of want them to finish it and like what they get at the end of it. So I'm hoping that with the short row, I've got short row shaping, and then you've got increases, and then by the time this is how I'm thinking in my head. By the time it starts getting same old, there's a change of some sort. So, you know, before you get too bored, after the short row shaping, there's all this increasing, and you know, you've got to pay attention. And then by the time you start getting bored with that, then you're fading. And then by that time, it might get a bit boring. Then there's a bit more short row shaping. And then if it gets boring after that, then you're splitting for the sleeves. And so I'm hoping that that there's enough to keep it interesting, even though technically it's a plain sweater. Yeah, so I'm hoping that all of these elements will keep your interest as you go, so that you're not just dying to finish it and, you know, be done with it. Do you know what I mean? Because there's nothing worse than slogging through a project that just feels like it's the same old, and it's like, oh, I just want to be done with it, you know. But at the same time, because it's my first, I didn't want to make it overly complicated and add in too many elements that I just couldn't manage. Do you know what I mean? Have I said do you know what I mean too many times today? Anyway, so I'm hoping that there are enough elements there to keep everyone interested as they're working and enjoy the end result as well. So there you go. Can you tell I'm excited? I'm sorry if I seem like a little school kid, but I'm just so happy so far with how this has turned out. I have a few more design elements in mind, just little ones that I won't tell you about just yet because I want to keep those a bit of a surprise. But yeah, really, really happy. Yeah. So I have planned so far the numbers I've been able to work up and incorporate into the pattern, take this design up to a 4XL, which off the top of my head I cannot remember what bust measurement that covers, but I will put it just down here. I wanted it to be something available to a good range of sizes. Being my first design, I kind of wanted that, you know, go out strong. A friend of mine gave me very good advice years and years and years ago. Hers, it was primarily to do with how you wanted to raise children and with regard to discipline, but she always said start how you want to finish. And I've never forgotten that. I think it's really good advice. So I'm starting this design with a wide range of sizes, and I'm going to need testers. Hint, hint. So if anyone is interested in testing this design for me when I finally get the instructions written up, please get in touch with me. Yeah, I'd be happy to have you help me out, especially as this is going to take a fair bit of yarn. I mean, I'm expecting to use quite possibly 6 skeins for my size. So I'm going to need help with the full range of sizes. I mean, I can't make them all. I'm not good. I don't know if other designers use some special Fandangle computerized thing to calculate yardage for patterns. If there is some magical thing that can tell you how much yarn a design is going to take without actually making it, I'd love to know. So aside from someone actually making it in a size and telling me how much yarn they've used, I don't have any other way of working that out. So I am going to need some help because I don't think it's within the realms of possibility for me to make them all. Yeah, so if you would like to trust a large amount of yarn to a design I've put together before it's been tested and actually be part of that process, I'd love to hear from you. So definitely get in touch with me. That would be great. So there you go. I've got 3 jumpers on the go. Yeah, I'm really, really happy. Actually, while I've got this to show you, working on this has made me think a lot about this has worked in the round, and not just in the round but in a spiral, because I wanted it to be completely seamless. But at the same time, you still need to alternate skeins when you're using hand-dyed yarn. And that poses a bit of a challenge because crochet is a bit more difficult to alternate skeins in than knitting. Because the stitches are taller, you know, you can't just, I don't know how many knitters are watching, but if you knit, you'll understand what I'm talking about, is, you know, you just drop one strand and you just do your next stitch with the next strand, and then you keep alternating as you reach the same spot. It's easy-ish. It's easier to do in crochet if you have edges, like if you're working on a flat garment, much like Blur, where I told you just to carry the yarn up the side of the shawl when the stripes were narrow. That's great, but this is done in the round, so there's no edge or finish of a row necessarily where you can carry it up. And I did try to alternate it much the same way as you do knitting, by you know, just beginning the next stitch with the new yarn and working around and then swapping threads, you know, at the same spot. But it was still visible and I didn't want that. The perfectionist in me did not like that. So it got me thinking about different ways of alternating yarns so that you don't have an obvious change between one skein to the other. Because, yeah, it can look obvious and nasty sometimes. Not nasty, that sounds terrible, but you know, well, you don't want it to be obvious, do you? So one of the method I decided to use in this one, because it's worked in a spiral, so there's no obvious beginning or end to the round, hence the difficulty. The way I decided to do it was much the same way as I did the stripes. Now I'll just have to find it because it's subtle, which was my plan. Where did it start? Just bear with me while I find where this stripe started. I'm that good. No, here we go. Okay, now I don't know how obvious it's going to be on camera. Can you see just there? I've introduced the darker colour. So yes, the stripe sort of ends. There we go. And then you can see where I've continued with the first colour over top of the end. It's a method I've used in other designs. If you have a look in my Ravelry store, there's a free pattern called the Eliza Scarf. It was a design I submitted to Inside Crochet a few years ago and made it to the cover. I'm proud to say. Sorry, I was pretty excited. It's a striped scarf that has two colours that are worked over top of each other in a spiral, but the stitches change height and you work, anyway, the way you start, when you introduce the first contrast colour, I started with a slip stitch and then worked up, and it's like you're beginning a wedge of a new colour, and then the first colour comes back over and it's just so gradual that it's barely noticeable. And when you're working two colours that are very similar like this, it's virtually invisible. I didn't even know where I could find it. And then you spiral those two over each other. And that's what I decided to do to alternate the skeins of this colour, because now I've got two actually attached to this project. You can see I've worked one to here and the other one must be over the other side. There you go, that's where this one finishes. And I introduced it under the armpit. So it's going to be completely concealed, but it stops you having any kind of seam or, like, it's actually started just in the middle of the armhole there, just where my finger's poking out there. But that was my favourite way because you're just working the two skeins over top of each other in a spiral, much like like a spring. And the only place you are going to notice the introduction of a new colour or where it finishes is at the beginning and end of that whole section that you've used it. And I just thought that this was a much better way of doing it than having a somewhat visible, I mean, it was pretty good changing it the way I tried it the other way, just picking it up, but you could still see it. And I didn't like that. And I thought I would rather have two tiny little barely visible spots, separated by quite a bit of work, than a whole section where you could kind of make out that something was happening. Anyway, that's how I've decided to do it. I hope you appreciate that being written into the instructions, because I'm going to include notes on how to do that. It's my preferred way of alternating colours and striping for that matter. I don't actually mind having that, a stripe that doesn't go around and joins. Do you know what I mean? Like it starts here and then by the time it comes around, it doesn't join to the beginning. It actually is above it. I'm possibly not making much sense, but I used it in my OTT hat pattern as well. which is a super duper easy pattern, and you can work 2 colours over top of each other. Yeah, anyway, I would much prefer that than having an ugly seam down the back of my work. Look, there's some stitches that lend themselves to, you know, doing the slip stitch to join each row and then chaining up or whatever. I think there's only a few that are good at that. Yeah, anyway, I like it seamless. So actually, speaking of invisible joining of seams, and you know, when you've got to go up a row, check out Rosina from the Zines and Roger podcast. She has a tutorial for a granny square blanket. Now, I know probably most of you have made granny squares before. These are not new. And anyone, I mean, the first thing you crochet basically is a granny square when you learn, isn't it? Just about. But there are quite a few different methods of joining granny squares, and some of them baffle me. I've seen some, okay, imagine this is a square. I've seen some where they start in the middle of the flat side. So you see this line going all the way up the center, like it's not even in the corners. It's just not fun. I probably should have had a granny square here to show you, but anyway, some have very, very obvious positions where you finish a row and begin the next row. Rosina's tutorial shows you how to do it so that it's completely invisible. You can't even see it. It's in the corner. It's a method I've used, but she's done the tutorial for it, so yay Rosina, thanks for that. Check it out, it's definitely worth a look at. And it also makes it easier to turn each round. I know I've spoken about how if you keep the same side facing for a granny square, it tends to skew and make the inside square sort of not sit quite, when I say inside square, if you make it quite large, the center of your granny square can kind of look like it's at a bit of a tilt compared to the outside. And that's because you haven't turned each round. Rosina's tutorial starts and finishes you in a position where you can turn each round with no problem, because if you finish in a different position, it can make turning each round difficult. So check it out, it's well worth a look, and the blanket that you make from it, you'll probably want to make anyway. It's awesome and a great quick workup. So yeah, check that out, because you know, after doing a heap of work, you know, who wants a big ugly seam? If you can avoid it, I mean, there's some things and the nature of crochet stitches, and there's just nothing you can do. It's, you know, the nature of the beast. But hey, if you can avoid it and make it look better, why not? So there you go, there's my tip for the day. Yeah, so there you go. I've said that again too many times now, haven't I? The other thing I wanted to share with you, because I have shown you all my FOs and whips, I wanted to talk a little bit more about my furls hook. I've had a chance to use it a bit more, because I know when I mentioned it last time, I'd only used it for a very small bit of time. I couldn't believe it. I had no projects that I was using the hook sizes I had. But since I last recorded, I made my Brenda Bella mitts using this. I made actually both samples, the DK and the Sport Weight I made, and I did something else. No, I must have just been having a play. But in any case, I've had a chance to use it a lot more, and I love it. Oh my God. When I go back, now you know how much I love my Clover Armours. After I use this and I go back to this, it's just not the same. It feels really short. Like when you first put this in your hand, it feels really long and kind of strange. But honestly, I love it. I'm sorry. It's probably not what you wanted to hear when we're talking $30 US a hook. So I'm just going to leave that there and just say I'm really, 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 really in love with these hooks, and just leave it at that. Just letting you know. Okay, the other thing I wanted to share with you was a pattern that I found, and as soon as I saw it, I bought it instantly. So I'm thinking that you guys might like it as well. Skein Yarn is here in Australia, but I know they ship overseas, and they're based up at Coffs Harbour. I think it's Kristen. Kristen? I always panic and think, oh, it's Kirsten. No, Kristen. No, Kirsten. I'm sure it's Kristen. I hope it is after all that. In there, I'm pretty sure it was in her last newsletter, showed this design because it's made using their yarn, and this is called the Outback Cowl by the Cashmere Cheetah. Now, oh, I did this before. I should remove the charger lead. Can you see that? How cool is that? I hope it's showing up. I'll try it. What I should do is insert a picture somewhere. But it's such a cool design, and I thought, something else I've mentioned numerous times before, crochet does not always lend itself to variegated yarns, depending on stitch height and things like that. But this one does. Oh, it's looking a little dark. I hope you can see that. If you can't see it really, really well, look this pattern up. It looks awesome, and it's got these cool ridges for texture, and it just looks fantastic. Honestly, as soon as I saw it, I went straight to Ravelry and bought it. And I'm sure, you hear that squeaking? That's my daughter trying to shut the kitchen window, which makes a horrendous noise.
Oh, I'm trying to shut it so we get silence.
Okay. Thanks for that, Pipey.
Yeah.
Told you, weird today. Yeah, I'm sure all of us have that skein in our stash that just doesn't kind of work with a lot of projects. But I really think this design lends itself perfectly to variegated yarns. So check it out. It's really awesome. I think so anyway. I haven't started it, I've had a quick look at the instructions. I just thought the end product is fab. So just wanted to share it with you in case you hadn't heard of that one before. So I think that's it. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've just been talking at 10 times speed for the whole episode. I'm really sorry if that's been the case. I haven't even had that much caffeine today. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed what I've had to share with you. Hopefully by the next episode I will have a full sweater to show you. That's definitely what I'll be working on as much as possible over the next little while, because in January my uber fabulous sister-in-law, who is the photographer that I use for as many of my designs as I can get her to photograph, she's coming down to visit. And so I want to have a bunch of stuff ready for her to photograph for me when she's here. Yeah, I'm making it work in a holiday. Such a good friend. Yeah, but we have a ball when we're together. So yeah, I want to make sure I have them all finished for that. So that's what I'll be doing. So yeah, hopefully I'll have a lot to show you. If I get this out in time, which I'm hoping to, you have another day and a bit to snag 30% off my Brenda Bella Mitts pattern. Let's show you the front. This one, it's 30% off in my Ravelry store till the 31st of October. So I'll try and get this out before then, in case you've missed that one on Instagram. Check that out. And if anyone is in Sydney, or this weekend, I will be visiting Skein Sisters on Sunday, November the 5th. So if you're around and want to hang out for a bit and maybe crochet and chat, I'm going to be at Skein Sisters. Love to see you. If you haven't yet visited Skein Sisters in Sydney, you should just go anyway. You don't have to come to visit me. It's a beautiful store. The yarns are amazing. Deb and Janine and the girls there are just lovely. So definitely go there at any time you can. You should definitely do that. But I'm going to be there on Sunday, so I'm a bit excited. Yeah, so if you're in the area, come by, have a chat, sit down and crochet with us. So Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you. I hope you've been well. I hope you've been enjoying your crafting time, and I will see you again soon. Bye everyone.
Take one.
Take one. Always do it in one take. What are you talking about?
Liar.
Go. Gone. No. This is why I don't let you do this.
Okay,
Don't stare at the camera. Just
well, we're already still recording. It's not.
You know, if you
999.
You two were supposed to just start the camera and walk away. This is why I need a remote.
Okay, well, it's not recording now.
Bye.